So you can tell me when you're, I guess, ready.
I'm just sharing one last post on social media on the LinkedIn group.
So, hello, Patrick.
And yeah, I think let's start on time. So
yes, perfect.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to our webinar for how to cut 50% of quality assurance time with visual feedback and an agile process. So before we do our introductions, we want to also get to know you a bit more. And we would like to ask, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to quality assurance? And if you can type that in the chat. So I will put this question in the chat and you can share your biggest challenge. Maybe we can discuss that in the Q&A section at the end of the webinar and also your other questions. Then, all right, let's introduce ourselves. So I am Ashley and I'm in the product marketing team, which means I do market research as well as talk to our customers and potential customers to understand what is their problem surrounding feedback. And then I work with the product team and the growth team to bring that solution, to bring that experience to our customers so that they can better collect and manage feedback. And
yeah.
Yes, so I have a quick class so that he can introduce himself.
I took the break to jump in. Yeah. Yo, hi. Great to have you here all. I'm Klaus Schremser and one of the co-founders of UserSnap. I'm also head of growth, taking care of that our product is brought into the world. And yeah, sometimes I'm also the housekeeper when it comes to some technical questions. That's it so far.
So now you got to know me and Klaus. We think you should also know UserSnap a little. So for those who don't know yet, UserSnap is a customer feedback platform designed for software companies to collect and manage feedback, whether it's from your end users or whether it's internal. And with the UserSnap widget, you can speed up your quality assurance stage as well as your testing with customers process easier with the screen recording tools and screenshot tools. And as you can see on this picture, some annotations on the screenshots. And then in the UserSnap dashboard, you can manage that, collaborate with your team, or you can send that to project management tools that you're already using, such as Jira. And that helps to cut down your QA process, which we'll talk about a bit later.
Ta-da!
Let's jump into today's topic, which Klaus is the main speaker of today.
Yes, thank you very much for the introduction and the first words, Ashley. So yeah, today we're talking about how to cut 50% of your QA time. And many of you probably have the same issue that when it comes to QA, there are a lot of time goes into that. And also like one report, the World Quality Report of Capgemini says that 1/3 of all the project budgets, and that also includes like any kind of QA on products and digital products especially, go to the QA part. So I think we should emphasize on that. And that's what our today's webinar is about. How can we cut 1/3 from half of 1/3? That's would be potentially amazing. And that's what our today's webinar is about. So in short, we want to kind of give you some tips or a few overview and a few first steps into how you can either launch your agile QA process, but also kind of improve it. And where we will start is a definition of what is an agile QA process for those of you who are not so familiar, and also to set the term to be clear on what we understand on this term. Additionally, there comes the approach of testing often and testing early. Automate when it's feasible. Also knowing the audience, like the product users, the target audience of your products and projects better, and how that can help the QA process. And last but not least, also collaboration and how that makes it work like in your team, and how you can bring in all kinds of stakeholders in the QA process, and with that hopefully improve your projects and your products. So let's start at the beginning, the definition of an agile QA process. And so as you already know, QA, or kind of quality assurance, is a systematic approach or process to ensure the product quality and also service excellence when it comes to any service products. In the beginning of software development, and I have to confess that I kind of also was there, there was the traditional waterfall methodology in the development. So you had kind of the step of having a requirements definition, then you had a kind of a design process or concept phase, then there was a development, a long phase of development, and then potentially in most project plans there was a short time of QA, and then you would release the software. But as we all know, that QA phase potentially like drag the projects on and on and on. And that is why new approaches came. And these new approaches are agile processes. And these agile processes, they are kind of happening already in the product development lifecycle. So what does this mean? Like the agile processes, they cut down this long, like traditional model into sprints. And these are 2 week sprints and iterative processes where you have like little loops in the product development lifecycle, iterative sprints, where you kind of engineering some requirements, you're designing, you're developing, you're doing QA or even user acceptance testing, and releasing software in these short agile sprints. And that helps you to not only start the testing very early, but also kind of releasing the software very early. But as you see the line on the bottom, this is like a iterative like circle or loop that's going along the process. And how that helps you, that's kind of, you know, you can get easily, quickly feedback. So from the QA team, but also from the product owners. And that helps you also to identify early on when there is something wrong and when you should maybe shift even with the whole project, you know, because when you're testing something, you're realizing if this works or not. And it avoids that projects or products are derailing. And that's kind of things that's happened, and I experienced that on my own. So yeah. If we sum up a bit this, or if we list these pains that are coming up, and we also try to address that in our webinars, that's kind of the old model, aka the waterfall model. The testing was at the end, and it was a huge task, and it was hard then to shift and to move the product in the right direction. You also you waited like for many months sometimes until you saw some result, and you know that there is always kind of the way how the people when they made a concept, how they saw the product, and then how it looks at the end, and that could lead to a lot of like misunderstandings. But when we look specifically at the QA methods that also were used in these kind of ways, or which are still used, and we want to come to that because it's also pain, is that you have a software, and in these sprints you're also flexible, agile. That's where the name comes from. But you have then suddenly you have to jump out of the software, and then you come to, and maybe I will switch to an image I took, and that's I think even an easy form, but there are way more complex forms sometimes in the projects. So these kind of difficult forms are super hard to understand for the QA team, for the stakeholders. They don't know what to put into these forms. So that's also another pain that's coming up during QA. And when you're agile and you have to move fast, and also the QA should work fast. And another step, and we already mentioned collaboration. We'll come back to that collaboration, and we heard it from many kind of potential customers that came to us and shared how they are currently working, and many of them are still using a spreadsheet as the central unit of listing all the issues. And maybe you're familiar with something like this. So I took that and searched for issue tracking templates. So there are still like these kinds of management of issues. And that's something that's a pain in the QA, and that's not helping you in a flexible and agile process.
Mm-hmm. So the second thing about in the agile process to incorporate QA is that every sprint, so every 2 weeks in the agile process, QA testers, QA engineers, they can test and retest the product as each new feature is added or launched. And that helps you to identify the issues as early as possible. So that is what it means by testing early and testing often. So if we go to the next slide, you can see even clearer how testing early can help you. It can help you save time, cost, and also improve like your quality of the product and competitive advantage by shifting left the testing. So a typical testing process will come nearer towards the end when your product is maybe in beta or is in production. But shifting left can help you to, during the requirement stage or the design and development stage, to already discover issues. And the earlier you discover there is something wrong and you fix it, the lower the cost it is and the less time you also need. And it's very crucial to know that this is an exponential growth of cost and time. So the more left that you are able to receive feedback and to test, the better you will be able to make your product. I want to talk about like a small case study over here. So we have an agency that I've talked to, and the software architect, she told me that in the beginning, they were always doing UAT, user acceptance testing, at beta or production, towards production stage of the product development cycle. And they were rarely able to deliver their product on time to the clients. And they always had very high cost in iterating the product. But then they were doing 2 UATs. So they started to do a UAT before development and one during like development beta stage. And they were able to make the customers more aligned with what is going on. And their customers were significantly more satisfied with the end product. And most importantly, they were able to finish their projects earlier and receive the money earlier. So that is a great thing.
It sounds like most of us are looking for.
Yes.
Having lower cost.
Getting the job done.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
great.
Let's move to the next stage.
Good. Yeah, automate when feasible. So we don't yet. I think that's an important part of the QA part things that many parts of QA, user acceptance, testing, and so on. There are always the question: should we automate it or should we manually? Do we have to manually test it? And there are a lot of cool software tools and software platforms to kind of already automate a lot of testing. And whenever that is possible, you should do that. There is a clear suggestion for that, especially when it comes to unit testing, the development code. So for each release that you can verify that it's still working. Security testing, a super important topic. Also for us, we are GDPR compliant, CCPA compliant. So we do regular tests on our software, also sometimes automated. And some of that has to be also still manual because humans are very kind of inventive and very smart when it comes to this testing. But most of the time we're doing automated testing. And there are tools for UI, user interface testing, that can be automated. But whenever you have a change in your UI, all the tests get invalidated and you have to do them again. This is why manual testing still has a very important role in all the QA processes. When it comes to user acceptance, of course, because your users, you have to find out if they understand the software, if it brings them value, that cannot be automated. Sometimes also functional testing, you have a clear process how to follow, and that cannot be automated all the times. You have to understand what your target audience wants and what the jobs to be done are, and then you have to do that. UI testing, as I said, it's changing quite often, and you want to figure out if something is not working in all these like different environments, on tablets, on mobile apps, and so on. And still very important, beta testing with a part of or a segment of your customers, and that still has to be in a certain sense manual. Yeah, I talked about it, and I hand over to you.
Okay, yes, the fourth tip about improving your QA process, like Klaus has already been mentioned in the functional testing and user acceptance testing, knowing your audience, being familiar with what their jobs to be done are, what their pains and gains are, what they're trying to achieve, and how their behaviors are, and how will they interact with the actual end product, is very important for you to kind of better plan and prioritize the QA and UAT. So if we, yes, so how you can know your users better. Here we are trying to introduce UserSnap a little bit more to you. And there are surveys and user interviews and just continuous feedback from your users. These all help you to gain knowledge about your users. And if you want to send surveys or invite your users to interviews within your product, you can use a feedback template from UserSnap, which is the one on the left-hand side. So let's say if they come back to your product, you can invite them to a user interview, or you can launch a survey. And there is also continuous feedback that is very important, letting them know that they can always give you feedback, rate experience of like a product flow, and just to send you any questions, inquiries when they have issues or feedback. So that continuous feedback will help you to know your users better, and then once you know your users, their behaviors and their preferences, you can design QA scenarios and tests way better.
Yeah, I think that's super important, that you understand the target audience that is using your product before you can do really good QA. Because it's not only about like, is something, a search is working, but is it working in the way that your target audience is needed it? Thanks a lot. So from our 5 steps, we came, first of all, we came to the 5th step, and that's collaboration makes it all work. And what we mean and what we want to address here is that behind every high quality product, there is a team of professionals. And although, you know, each team has its responsibility, when it comes to the quality of the product, and I think that's one of the most important parts of any software, there are different stakeholders involved, and you have to kind of bring them all together also in the QA part. So QA, in a way like that everyone can contribute, must be super easy. And you should provide collaborative methods that your team, let's say stakeholders from outside the QA team, so the QA team should work on it, but also the product owners and also kind of stakeholders like, I don't know, yeah, C-level, they want to give you feedback on that. That must be easy. It must come together so that you don't receive a lot of emails. And then on the other hand, like your development team and your engineering team, they should be able to work on certain issues in an easy way, and everything of that, like working together, generates new knowledge, and that should be somehow stored somewhere in a system, and that brings, you know, your team on board, and the quality is shared. That's also important, and also kind of a user centricity comes up with that, because people understand then better what is the issue, how can we improve on that. And I think that's a very important part of QA, and too often it's way too much split up, and only the QA team is responsible to do the quality assurance. And I think that's often a shared responsibility, of course, with someone who is in charge at the end, but should be able for anyone to contribute. So one thing we want to jump into, and you heard about our software solution. So we want to show you how this could look like if you're not already using UserSnap or a similar visual feedback tool, how this could be kind of your new reality in your QA process. And what I want to do is, I would love to kind of switch here to a demo platform we prepared, just to show you how you could optimize and improve your QA and UAT, user acceptance testing. So either you let your users test or your QA team, and how that could help. Let's imagine this is an application your team developed or you're developing. And what UserSnap can help you with is, first of all, make it super easy to report any issue. And it's happening within the app. So we talked before about the complex forms, and you have to switch the context. You saw even how sometimes it's a bit confusing when someone jumps from a presentation to another page. That's happening also with the forms. And what UserSnap does with a small, simple few lines of code, you can add to any website or application. You can add such a button. And in our case, you can then have such a small menu if you want that. And that's kind of guiding the users and your testers or your stakeholders or developers, whoever wants to give feedback and report an issue to, for example, and it's totally customizable, if you have an issue, a bug to report, if you want to design, for example, do a design issue, because I for myself wanted to separate it in 2 different buckets, into different projects. And if you have a QA, a structured QA process running, you might have test use cases. Yeah, so I just pointed a list or linked a list, let's say in our Confluence, where I have like 3 test cases, and you can go through them, and then I can like collect the feedback, or the QA team can collect the feedback here. But now I want to show you how it works. If you have to you have an issue here, you see that something is written in the wrong way, and you want to report a bug here. Or this form, like the whole form is not stretched enough, or it's not looking right. So you can kind of select here with a few annotation tools directly on your browser. So the cool thing is your browser window, your screen turns into a screenshot immediately. You don't need any extra installation. And then your users, your QA team can give feedback and can, for example, highlight an area. I can add a comment directly here. I can say, this is a typo. Additionally, I could use a pen with a different color, and I could, for example, like circle around, paint something. I have an arrow, and I could even like black out things. Please fix this as a, there is already my email, and I can submit that easily. So you see how easy that is, and that's kind of makes your fastens the way how your team can give feedback, and also shortens, in this case, the QA process. Additionally, I want to go back to what we saw before, because there are a few nice other features. For example, sometimes it's helpful if you're not using, or if you cannot explain the issue with a screenshot. You can also record kind of a video of what's happening. For example, if you have this nasty issue that on the one hand the widgets are switching, and on the other hand that when you're collapsing the navigation, that it's kind of not staying open, and you have this issue. This is hard to explain, but I recorded an 18-second video here. Please have a look at the widgets jumping and the navigation. So with that, it's super easy to understand for the development team what's my issue, and that probably makes any explanation in long format forms unnecessary. Mm-hmm. If you cannot install something in your environment, we also have a browser extension, so you can install something on your browser, and you can do the same thing without having our software installed, which helps you additionally. A quick look into the dashboard. So we're switching the role from the QA tester and looking into the UserSnap dashboard. And here is one project. This is the bug tracking project. And we see here our screen and also the screenshot we took in the first place. And you immediately see what issues I have. And I mean seeing, and not, you don't have to tell, and it's immediately clear what your issues are. Additionally, I have here all the explanations, and very interesting is I have additional informations here. I can see, when it's sent and so on. And sorry for that. So here it is. And I also see the browser size. I see the browser, the typical questions are, which browser are you using, on what device, and so on. You don't have to ask it anymore. That's already here. You would even get all the console browser bugs, JavaScript errors already sent in. And you could even add your own custom data, like if you have a version, a product software release version, and so on. So all the bugs from a specific release. And here we are seeing the video recorded before. So that's super easy to investigate. But maybe you already have Jira, you already have Azure DevOps, you already have any other kind of tools, Trello, and so on. You can integrate UserSnap with around 4,000 apps right now. Yeah, so the most important ones are listed here, not all 4,000, but with Zapier you can integrate all kinds of, and that kind of gives you the possibility to either send it automatically, so you're only using us for our nice screen capturing and screen recording features and the nice easy to use widgets, or you can manually decide which one you want to send. I will quickly share how this is done. So for example, I go into one of these issues and then I can click here and send it to integration, and I send it to my Jira project. And within a short period of time, it is transferred and it's already in Jira there. As I said, it could be also automatically sent or manually if you want to kind of also quality assure, make sure that the quality of the issue is right before you send it to your developers. Yeah, I think these are like very nice features. There are additional ones, like for example, you can assign, so you can use it as a full issue tracking system. You can assign it already here also to Ashley. Like for example, Ashley will get now a new issue. Ashley can also collaborate with me here and can write me back and ask me questions. I can also come back to the tester and ask John Doe what specifically is the problem. If I don't understand the issue, it rarely happens, but sometimes it happens. You can attach any kind of information, which also helps you to share. Like for example, if there is a logo which has to be changed, it's easily interchanged here. From like the configuration, there are a lot of things where you can add additional fields here, and like maybe you have some specific information which you need in your company, so that can also be easily adapted. And you can not only handle one project in UserSnap, you can have multiples. As we saw before, the feedback menu already showed us two, and I want to share with you one other functionality that might help you in your QA process. And then I think we have a nice overview on what you can, how you can kind of optimize your QA functionality. This is like few previously submitted feedback. So in case you want to also include your stakeholders and your testers, if you have a user acceptance test and you want to show which issues were already like submitted, they can have this link here, and when they click on that, there is an extra portal where you can share the feedbacks, and you see these are our last two feedback items that we shared with the video recording, so they can see, they can even upload it here or comment on that, so they can have a full collaboration on that. And you're including everyone. As we said, collaboration is one of the essential steps in to fasten the QA process and also make it or optimize it for your agile approach. We come back now to that. And
yes,
hand over to Ashley.
Klaus has shown us all the magic, and I just want to share two testimonials in particularly relevant for this. So Dynatrace is a software company that does AI monitoring for security on applications, and they are quite a big company. So they have over 2,000 employees, and they say that with UserSnap, the easy to use and streamlined feedback process is essential for scaling up their internal feedback exchange during their QA process. And also the next one, since we are a bit tight on time. So on average, our UserSnap customers, they have reduced at least 50% of the time in resolving feedback in QA and UAT teams. So even for some, they told me that before they were having 30 minutes just going back and forth with the process, like finding out technical details, contacting stakeholders, and then tracking the progress and responding to customers and using like multiple different tools. And now with UserSnap, everything is in one platform. It just takes 1 minute. And I want to help you guys to potentially calculate how much time and money you can spend. So if you answer these 3 questions about like how much time you spend in your QA process and how many people are involved and what is the average hourly rate, salary for your employees, you will be able to see how much time and money you're saving with UserSnap. And although it's a very simple calculation, but it's really quite significant. So I'll also share an example. So let's say you take 1 week in your QA process for a particular release, and 5 people are involved, like the PM, designers, and developers. And we're being very modest over here. So 50 USD for per employee, that already saves you 10K. So that is just 1 round of QA and you already save so much. And if you check out UserSnap pricing, you will know how much you're saving. So yes, that is our presentation of how much time you can save with in QA with UserSnap, and also some tips and features of UserSnap. And now let's go into the Q&A.
QA, into QA.
Yes, from QA to QA.
Okay,
so
great.
The QA is about QA. We have from Patrick 2 questions here. The first question is, who should do QA testing? Does the size of the company affect responsibilities or not? And he says that he is in the growth phase, and there are some discussions in the product team about this topic.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So if I might answer.
Yes.
Okay. So I think, yeah, I think that's a topic that many are discussing, but especially, I mean, if you're bigger in size, then potentially you have a Q&A team. But I think in the first phase, it's often the possibility, if the responsibility, and here we're talking specifically about SaaS or product companies, that it's the responsibility of the product managers to at least overlook the Q&A. It often happens from the responsibility standpoint, I would say it's the product management. Later on, it could be, if you're big enough in size, there could be a QA manager, but still product management has to, from my point of view, still the responsibility on the main topic. Mm-hmm. And there is a second one and one more. In your experience, how much time can this software save us in the QA phase? I guess, Ashley?
Yes, look at the formula that I just sent in the chat.
So a lot, really a lot. Yes. 10K minimum, guaranteed.
And look at Dynatrace. So Dynatrace team, they do have the kind of like the product managers or project managers in whichever website or app that they are responsible for that would oversee the QA process. But then they open up the feedback to everyone. So all 2,000 employees are able to give them feedback. And of course, not everyone is going to spend as much time on it, but if you calculate that 2,000 employees, it's a big number. You'll get a big number. Absolutely.
As we are already a bit over time, I would suggest if there are any other questions coming in, we will answer them by email. As always, like, thanks a lot for joining. And if you are interested, like having additional questions, we want to have a personal kind of consultation call. We're always open up for that. So either you can sign up via our website, or you can email me directly with kms@usersnap.com. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's season, today's episode of how to use UserSnap, how to not use UserSnap, use user feedback, sorry, to kind of grow your company. And yeah, let's see what the next webinar of the magic power of feedback brings.
Yes, looking forward, and thank you for today.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.